Experience, is it more the case that people come to you saying, I want the bank to lend me more money, and the bank saying no? Or could it be like in this situation that there's a lot of people out there that could borrow millions of dollars, but yeah, they just can't deal with the risk and need something more conservative?
Yeah, look, it's all dependent on the individual's risk rating, and you have to be comfortable with any decision that you're making. So really it doesn't matter if the bank is going to lend you a large sum of money. If you're not comfortable with that amount of money and with that amount of risk, then you need to be discussing that with your accountant and your mortgage broker. And often, more than not, I would tell people, you know, based on the budget that we've done together and based on what I've seen of your finances, maybe it's a good idea to actually spend a little less. People have lifestyle changes, of course, as well, like having a family, maybe going from 2 incomes down to 1. All these things need to be taken into consideration. So I also think that Ken was speaking about having a buffer earlier, and certainly if you've got investment properties and your investment property on a, say, a monthly basis is going to cost you out-of-pocket expenses anywhere between $500 and $1,000 a month, you need to consider, you know, having a buffer set aside for those fees so that you can cover them and so that you're comfortable with the overall lifestyle after you've paid for those expenses.
In the old days, you have a mortgage and you pay it off, and it's as simple as that. How complicated are things these days? Like, how many options are there?
Oh, we've got over 300 products, and really structures are endless. There's always a different way that we can be structuring things for a client, depending on their needs and depending on what their long-term plan is, as Ken said. And what I really like to do with the client is actually go through what are their 2-year and 5-year goals and changes that are actually going to happen for them in their life, and actually find out how we can tweak and set up the loans now to satisfy their future investing needs. And for some people it's a little bit, they're a little bit scared at the beginning because they're buying their first property, but they have a vision of investing in property in the future. And so there are options out there, but it's all about setting up a structure that's going to be flexible and cost effective for our clients in the future and not going to cost them a lot to restructure as well. So we've got to take all of those things into consideration so that, you know, we're looking forward into the future. It's not just it's not just a 15 or a 30-year loan which they're going to pay off and that's it. People are a lot more advanced these days and really wanting to get into property and really having an interest in educating themselves.
Because with the example with Anna before the break of like a 600 grand property owing 300, is that the way the majority of people are set up? And I guess how scared are a lot of those people to then say, well, maybe go interest only and don't pay off that loan and then start investing even more? Does that freak people out?
Yeah, it does. It does. You know, things have changed. Certainly if you do want to invest in property, sometimes switching your loans to interest only is the best way to go for cash flow and tax purposes. And people do have equity in their properties that unfortunately they're not accessing, and a lot of the time it's due to a lack of education or a lack of actually sitting down with their tax accountant who is an advisor or a specialist in property, and their finance broker who has a vision to actually grow with them and build their property portfolio. So I think it's really about sitting down and understanding the numbers, and it's not necessarily about doing something today. It might be, you know, 6 months or it might be 2 years away before you can do something, but at least you know what your options are, and I think that's really important. It's better to know what your options are and then to sit back and just be scared and just think you can't, you know, invest in property. I think that's more detrimental in some ways.
Now, Kim, both of you have mentioned education. Maybe a quick topic to have a quick discussion about. There's obviously a lot of seminars around property these days compared to 10 or 20 years ago. There's a lot of bad press about seminars as well, and the various sharks and con merchants and the rest of it. But when it comes to education, is it a good thing to go to seminars? And whether you pay $50 or you pay $5,000, is there generally still good information that's well worth doing? And I guess the second part is that tax deductible, because everyone wants a tax deduction. Not that I believe in it myself, but if you get it, it's a bonus.
I think it is. There are some very good educational workshops and books. I don't think people should be afraid to go to them, at least at the beginning if they know nothing, so it gives them maybe a more global, holistic approach to certain things. Maybe go to those seminars that aren't necessarily selling a property, so people then have one fear taken away. If they think they're going to go to a workshop to be sold something, they may not go. So
and
do some
sometimes
research.
that's price related. Like if you go to a free seminar, no one does anything for free, the chances are you're going to be sold
That's
something.
right.
If you pay decent money to go, the chances are, well, you've actually paid them for their time, so maybe you won't get sold something.
Correct. And I mean, at Chananala, we use the workshops to educate people to know what questions to ask. We're really focused on ask questions. So what we try and say to people is go and understand the issues, the sorts of questions to ask, and then when appropriate, go to the professional, accountant or finance broker, and then pay for the service, because at least you'll know what to ask and you'll know what you're trying to achieve, so you'll get a better outcome that way.
Yeah, and I get a lot of people asking me, both in person and kind of over the email, what are the good seminars and who's going to rip me off? But I'd say I actually think it's worth going to the seminars where they're trying to rip you off, because then you can then hit what people are doing and learn the tricks that the dodgy people are doing, so you don't get caught out yourself. So I don't mind if I spend $5,000 going to a seminar, pick up one tip.